Today, my guest is Danielle Snelling, who is the co-founder of Motherless Daughters Australia. Hi, Danielle.
Hi, lovely to chat with you today.
And welcome. So tell me how Motherless Daughters Australia came about.
Well, it started informally, I guess, back in 2013. My mum died in 2012, and there wasn't any support that I could find that was specific to the loss of a mum for a daughter. And I really struggled with not finding any relatable support for that specific loss and that type of relationship. So I kind of set out to find somebody in the first instance who had experienced that loss because I didn't have anyone around me who could relate.
Mm.
And I joined a general group on Facebook back in, I think it was late 2012. Facebook wasn't as big as it is now, so I wasn't sure what I was going to get. And I just said, "Hi, I'm from Australia. This is what's happened to me, looking to find somebody else similar." And a girl called Eloise got back to me and she said, "Yes, that's me, and I'm from Melbourne." So the two of us met and we chatted for hours and hours in this cafe. I think we just about got kicked out.
Oh, wow.
But it was the first time since mum had died that I felt truly understood and validated and acknowledged.
Mm.
And we became really good friends really quickly. And we, identified what that friendship had given us, so much more than a friendship, and how many other women were in our shoes, and how could we offer this to them as well. So we started Motherless Daughters Australia not long after. Had no idea what we were doing, but yeah, had to learn all sorts of things very quickly, and fast forward to 2018, and yeah, we're a registered charity.
Wow. Yeah. How, so how many women do you have?
We've got a community of over 13,000 women at the moment, but we
Mm.
know from ABS data that there's 3.9 million women in Australia who have lost their mum, and 1.2 million of those experienced loss before turning age 44. So we've only reached a very, very small percentage of them, and being relatively new, awareness is one of our key priorities.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mm.
So does that include like women, elderly women as well, who have lost their mums? It's
Yeah,
everyone.
it's everybody, anyone who identifies and wants some support. You know, Premature loss, mother loss in particular, is incredibly profound,
Mm.
with lots and lots of lifelong impacts. But we know that for those women who have had mums for, most of their life, that loss is also really profound because that's someone they now, are being forced to live without after having them for many, many years. So, yeah, we offer support and peer support across all ages and all stages of loss.
Right. So what does that support look like? What do you do?
Yeah, well, we have an online support group, peer support group. So that's got just over 8,000 members. And that's where, women can come and access support 24/7 from within the community. We also have our annual and signature event, which is a pre-Mother's Day high tea. That's in 5 states, so 5 major cities, where we hold this event for women to connect and unite in the lead up to Mother's Day and develop that in-person support and new friends and meaningful friendships from an opportunity, to connect with others.
Yeah.
And we have a program called Friends in Grief, which is a one-on-one matching program. We say it's like Tinder, but for grief friends.
Oh, right.
So we match women up based on like their age, their current age, the age they were when their mum died, what their mum died from, whether or not they have children, and if they had children before or after she died, and then location. So then we go through and we carefully match, provide the best possible matches that we can, and connect them via email, and then they have a grief friend. So we see lots and lots of friendships flourish from that program. And we also have a Memories of Mum children's journal for kids, boys and girls under 14 who have lost their mum. So we're building out our suite of resources. As I said before, we're relatively new. So this is what we've got at the moment, but we're embarking on some research and some advocacy and more broad awareness within the community.
Yeah. Do you do a lot with the younger children? Is it only the journaling that you do, or is it?
Yeah, at the moment it's just the journals, and that's
Right.
because we have we have limited resources. So the way we're able to reach the kids is through, adults on social media platforms or word of mouth within schools. But hopefully when we get some more funding, we
Yes.
can roll out all dependent on funding.
Oh, no.
Um, it's
Oh,
really tough, but that is something we're really passionate about, getting these journals out to kids, and once we do have funding, we'll be able to find pathways to better reach them.
yeah, yeah. Wow. Because I deal with a lot of kids who have lost their mums, especially
Mm,
young girls around 11, 12 that have lost their
yes,
mums, and it's devastating
such
because
a hard age.
it's sort of the start of womanhood, and you need a guide for that. So,
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's those milestones, isn't it? I mean,
yeah,
mums are so critical to navigating those milestones. And
yeah,
when you're thrust into a world without her at such a young age, it makes all those things much more difficult than they would have been or should
yeah.
have been.
Yeah, that's right. Yes, yeah, and especially if they've got a grieving dad as well, which
That's right.
is so difficult. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So, oh gosh, I've got so many questions running around in my head that so I'm really interested in the Mother's Day thing that you do, because
Mm.
we have like a bereaved Mother's Day, which is the week before Mother's Day. Is that when you do that?
We've got a Mother Loss Awareness Week, and that starts on the Saturday before Mother's Day and runs to the day before Mother's Day. So the dates change every year because
Right.
Mother's Day is always a different date. But
Yeah.
the start of that week, that's our high tea events that launch that week.
Yeah.
And we also launch our awareness campaign, which is called the Draw Her Wings campaign. So whilst we're whilst we're an organisation that supports women and girls, we completely recognise that Mother's Day can be a really difficult and isolating time for sons and daughters missing
Yeah.
their mum. So this is an all-encompassing and inclusive campaign that people can resonate with, and we encourage everyone to participate in. So it's just a simple, like a heart with a halo.
Yeah.
And we get anyone and everybody to participate in that. It can be to honour your mum or to honour a mum that you know who has died. And it's for the general public to get involved with, as well as a way to raise awareness that support exists during that time. But something we always like to educate our community and the broader society on about Mother's Day is that Mother's Day was actually started by a woman called Anna Jarvis
Mm-hmm.
in honour of her mum who had died.
Yeah.
So not many people know this. And, that's where the white carnations came from. And she organised, all of these activities overseas. And everybody came to this, initial, I guess, honouring service
Yeah.
to honour mums, both alive and who have died. But definitely this was started as a tribute to her mum. And she actually fought to have the day abolished when it became too commercialised and it lost its meaning. So once we provide this information to our community, it allows the opportunity for their mindset to shift a little bit and to take ownership of that day in some way, because the origins of it are are something that we can all relate with, and we can kind of say, wow, that's actually for us, that was started by a woman in our position.
Yeah.
And yeah, through commercialization has lost its meaning. But we don't want to rain on the Mother's Day parade at all, because mums are important to celebrate and should be celebrated. But we are really passionate about reframing the approach to Mother's Day so that there is a sensitivity, approaching it, and that people can acknowledge that it's a difficult day, and here's some support services and tips to cope, rather than spoil mum this Mother's Day, because not everybody can.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Because I find like my mum died when I was older in
Yeah.
2015, and she had dementia for 10 years before that.
Mm,
So it's like losing her twice. But every
absolutely.
year, yeah, but every year it's like, oh, another Mother's Day without mum. But
It's hard.
knowing, yeah. And there's so many questions you don't get to ask your mum. Even at my
Yeah.
age, it's difficult. And mum is the person that you usually ring and say, oh, mum, what do I do with this? How do I do this? And then
Yeah,
when it's not there, it's like, now what? Now what?
exactly. And
Yeah.
sometimes Google doesn't cut it.
No, not at all.
Like,
Not at all.
sometimes you just want to hear it from her. I mean, the answer's
Yeah.
on there, but is it
Yeah.
really? Is that what she'd
Yeah.
say? Like, that type of
Yeah.
thought process we all have.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And I know losing a mum at any time, well, losing anyone, but I think
Mm,
especially a mum, because there's that heart connection, and like mum carried you, mum carried us. So
mhm.
it's like a really, really tight connection, whether you like it or not sometimes. But I mean,
Exactly. And
yeah.
I think too, it's one of those relationships or bonds. Like we've got lots and lots of women in our community, sadly, who didn't have a good relationship with their mum. Perhaps she was
Mm,
abusive, or,
yeah.
narcissistic in some way, or just absent.
Mm,
But it just goes to show how powerful that bond or lack of bond can be, because the impact is the same in different ways. I mean, there is still that profound impact there that we don't necessarily see happen through the absence of other relationships in our lives.
mm,
It's whether it's a good or a bad relationship, it's still a profound and unique relationship that just has enormous impact, that
mm,
is, you know, not acknowledged and so unrecognized, because we just don't know enough about it. So that's where, our research and pioneering research in this space is going to be critical, because we know the approach to supporting those who have experienced mother loss needs to change dramatically. It's not a normal grief response
mm.
in some aspects.
Yeah. So can you sort of expand on that?
Yeah, we know from some research. There's your little
Yes. Oh,
little
God. Oh, the cat. Oh,
kitty in the background.
she, she is sitting on the dog's chair, so they might have a bit
Oh,
of push
cute.
and pull.
um, so there
Yeah.
is some American-based research, and I'm really excited because we're doing our own homegrown research this year. But
Oh, awesome.
this is kind of across the board, but premature mother loss, we know, impacts women by way of anxiety, depression, isolation, loneliness, suicidal ideation, a
Mm,
fear of developing close relationship or bonds with others, because
mm,
lots of health and death anxiety arise. And
mm.
we know that lots of women engage in maladaptive coping mechanisms, and
Yeah.
they also have a greater tendency to develop postnatal depression after having children.
Yeah.
So this is specific to premature mother loss, um, where, our brains are still developing when we're 25. So loss under that age in particular actually alters the brain. And we see things like, confidence and self-esteem impacted by that, decision
Mm,
making. Um, Often women get, lumped or lobbed with responsibilities of the household, if they've got younger siblings. Sometimes dads, bless them, they're just not mums, and they
No,
just don't have that emotional capacity to even take on that role really, and nor should they. They shouldn't be expected to do something that they're just not built psychologically and physiologically to do. But dads just can't step up in that spot some of the time, which then has more of an impact. And then we see dads moving on very, very quickly.
oh,
And
yeah.
so stepmom comes in, and that's its own set of challenges. And at the moment, we're seeing, women who lose their mum young, still very much impacted into their 40s, 50s, and 60s because they have so much unresolved grief, or they've developed prolonged grief disorder because they were told not to talk about it, or the impact wasn't properly recognised. And we also have a society, who pathologizes grief. And
Mm.
grief isn't a mental illness. So to even get support that's subsidized by Medicare, you have to go off to the doctor, get a mental health plan. You're then literally walking out of there with a mental health diagnosis, which is so incorrect,
Yeah.
just to see a psychologist. Further to that, psychologists aren't trained in grief and loss.
No.
So we're perpetuating the problem from a systematic approach that is just so wrong to grief in general. But that impact of mother loss is just something else that needs specialist and specialized, attention and an
Mm.
approach. And we hope that through our research we can help mold and develop that model and approach, because we're falling through the cracks, and it's going, it's
Oh.
going unnoticed, and women aren't getting the right support.
Mm. Mm.
I'm
And
sorry, that was a very long-winded
oh
answer.
no, it's perfect though, because like when people come to me, I'm a psychotherapist and I'm
Yes.
specifically trained in grief. I had to specifically train in grief. And I'm also a psychologist who is trained in CBT. And I get a lot of mental health plans that give me CBT, doctor recommends CBT. And I think that is so useless. And
Mm-hmm.
and they're put on antidepressants or anti-anxiety, or
So wrong.
they've got to sleep, so they're put on sleep medication. So yeah, I really think it's been medicalized, really medicalized, and I actually don't accept the mental health plans because of that, because I won't do all that. And I'm not going to
Mm-hmm.
get paid for doing all that because I don't. But it's important to know grief specifically, because so
Mm.
much damage can be done. Not knowing.
Absolutely. For
Mm.
sure. And I think we need to get better, not us because we know, but
Yes, as
we
a society, yeah,
we need to get better at allowing people to sit in the shittiness of grief.
exactly.
Let them be sad. It's a normal, natural response. There's no fix.
Yep.
And that support's there if they need it, but it's got to be the right support. I mean, it's a complete disservice to be diagnosing people who are grieving with a bloody mental health
Yeah.
problem. It's something I'm very passionate about, because
Yes.
I just think it's wrong. It is so wrong. And we see it time and time again from women in our community. They think there's something wrong with them.
Yep.
They're diagnosed with depression or whatever when
Yeah.
they're just grieving. Like, they just need
Yeah.
to be validated and acknowledged. And they hadn't yet found somebody to do that until they come to us and we say, you're normal.
Yep.
Throw that diagnosis out the window because you don't need it. Like, you're getting up, you're showering, you're going to work, you're functioning, you're
Yes.
doing all of that, and you're grieving, and that's okay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So with the research, like, you are so excited about the research,
Mm.
do you need people, or what's that research doing?
Yeah, where it's an initial research piece, a pilot, if you like,
Yeah.
because again, funding. So we need to demonstrate a bit of pilot research to then go and seek more funding. But we will be looking to recruit women to participate in that research piece. We're hoping it will be knocked over within about 9 months.
Wow. Yeah.
And it'll focus on the emotional impact of mother loss.
Yeah.
And yeah, look, I really hope that it will be the start of changing how things are approached, because yeah, it's just, I'm just not going to be able to stop. I don't think, until this is changed, because I hear too many stories of just, it's not okay.
No, I know. And it is, because I'm really passionate about people knowing that grief is grief and it's with you for the rest of your life. And
That's
it's
right.
not the 5 stages of grief. That's the thing that gets me, is all the friends say, you're stuck in anger or you're stuck in depression. And no, I'm in grief. I'm grieving. And it's so many.
Absolutely.
So, you know.
But even that, I mean, people don't understand the 5 stages of grief even.
No, that's
That's
right.
for people facing end of life.
Yes.
That's not to be applied to people who are grieving the loss of somebody else. And again, you go, and I've done it, I've seen a psychologist myself. I go to the doctors and they're like, oh, have you learned about the 5 stages of grief? And I think, wow, how uneducated are we on grief? This is not good.
Yeah.
This is not good.
No, and because Elizabeth Kubler-Ross actually fought herself and said, it's not for grieving people.
That's right.
It's for the dying in their last stages, and that's what she noticed. So, it's been taken
out of,
first.
Because people want to fix, I think. Let's take this, let's apply that, and you'll go through this. This is acceptance, tick, off we go.
That's right.
Get over
it. Yeah, exactly.
God.
Yeah, and there's so many better grief models out there anyway than that. But still, each of us grieve in our own way, and each style is okay. And you get friends saying, oh, but, you're not over your grief yet, and it's 15 years later. You should be over it. I had one of my patients was told by a psychiatrist that she wasn't over her dad yet. It was 3 years ago that he died, and she wasn't. And I thought, oh, my God, what do I do, if psychiatrists are doing this? So
yeah, it's appalling.
Yeah,
it's appalling.
Yeah. So so with you out there, I'm so pleased that came across you.
Look,
we do need people to talk about grief. It's life. It's part of life. It is really shitty. It's horrible. And it's horrible in the early stages. It's so lonely as well. That's the thing. Grief is lonely.
Yeah. And every year, I mean, this notion that, it's been X amount of years, get over it. I mean, every year we get a renewed sense of grief on their birthday or their anniversary, or when you reach the milestones, or when they should be here for something that they're not. It's, it's just, as you say, it's something that it becomes part of your identity, and you carry it in there.
Yep.
And you have to nurture it.
Yeah, that's right.
And it's something's taken me a long time to accept, but I'm so comfortable with my grief. I tell anyone who's not comfortable with it to piss off. I just go away, get out of my life. Don't need you. You're uneducated. I'm not. See you later.
Yeah.
And I'm sick of, as an organization, we're kind of going down the route of not making excuses for people who use platitudes. It's 2023.
Yeah.
Show initiative, be proactive, and research. If you've got a friend who's grieving, find out how to support them. I mean,
Mm.
it's no longer okay to say things that we've identified and said time and time again, it's not helpful.
Yeah.
And I'm sick of making excuses for, oh, but their intentions are good. Oh, but this, but that. Oh,
Mm.
well, I'm sorry, but research, support your friends, do better.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. There's
Yeah.
all this at least stuff. And I deal a lot with women who have lost their babies as well, or miscarriage. And people
Yes.
go, at least, you can get pregnant. At least
Yeah,
you had a baby, at least. And it's like, no, there's no at least.
that's
It,
right.
yeah. So,
Yep. I
yeah,
just think there's no excuse. There's lots of
no.
information out there. There's social media with a million accounts now about
Yep,
grief,
yep,
advising you, giving you tips, providing, suggestions of alternatives.
yep,
Look for
yes,
it and do better and be
yeah.
better.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
Exactly. Yes. So, how do people contact you or find you or yeah.
I could talk to you all day.
I know.
Um,
I know. Me
um,
too.
oh, it's so nice.
Yes.
Uh,
I love
oh
talking to
gosh.
people. I remember I had a supervisor that really, really was uncomfortable with me saying death
Oh.
and or dead. And I was like, she said, oh, you need to talk to so-and-so about this. Like I needed therapy. And I went, oh, actually, I need a new supervisor.
Actually, you need therapy.
That's right.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, I
Oh,
know.
God. This is
Yeah,
what we're dealing with.
yeah,
Like,
that's
yeah.
right. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
golly. We'll get
yeah.
there. We'll get there.
Well, that's right. Yeah, I hope I live to see that death, dying, grief, and grieving is
Mm.
acceptable.
And
It's
normalized.
like
Yeah.
normalized. Yes, exactly. Yeah,
Me
that's
too.
a
Me
part of
too.
our story, part of
Yeah.
our life. So,
It's part of everybody's story
well,
at
that's right.
one point or another.
Yeah, yeah. And I always say, they say the only sure things in life is death and taxes. Taxes you can get away from.
That's
Death
true.
you can't.
No. No.
So
No. It's
yeah.
so true. We
Yeah.
should use that as a social media post.
Yes. Do that. I did it. I actually did it years ago. And
Yeah.
somebody actually didn't like it. So yeah. So it was
Maybe because it's true.
exactly, yes.
Too
So
confronting,
yeah,
perhaps.
yeah. And I don't
Uh,
worry about those people anyway.
no, you can't.
No.
You can't.
No.
No.
So where do we find you, Danielle, and how?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So our website is
Mhm.
motherlessdaughters.com.au.
Yeah.
And then we're on social media platforms just under Motherless Daughters Australia.
Great. Yeah, that is so awesome. I love what you do, and I'm going to send a lot of my women
Oh,
your way because they really, really need it. And I know there's a lot of resources on your page as well, which is
mm.
amazing, and the groups and all the information is perfect. So it's
Oh, that's so good to
yeah,
hear.
it's
Yeah.
terrific.
And
Really,
if we
really
can,
wonderful.
yeah, if we can
Mhm.
help with the Memories of Mum journals for kids,
Yes.
I can send you
Yeah.
some of those as well.
That would be wonderful. Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah.
Terrific. Okay. Well, I'll put those on the end and um, whatever those things are called at the end of the
Yeah.
all those note stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's been wonderful talking to
Oh,
you,
you too.
Danielle.
I've
Thank you
really
so
enjoyed
much.
it.
Yeah, me too.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.